Two, one, and we're live for a new episode of the Electrek Podcast. I'm Fred Lambert, your host, and I'm joined by Seth Winshaw. How are you doing this week, Seth?
I'm good. Been snowboarding all week, so
Yeah, different
refreshed.
different background. So I bet you're in Vermont. That means.
Yep.
All right. Um, I'm still in California, and we are testing out a bunch of new electric vehicles this week. So stay tuned on Electrek for a bunch of reviews in the coming weeks. It's going to be quite a full schedule for us. But we're going to start with discussing the news of the week as usual. Starting with the news that came out actually right after our last podcast, so we couldn't discuss it last week, and that's the new Long Range Plus Model S and X. It's not very a new version of the car. It's very much the same car, but they were forced to rename it in order to get the updated EPA ratings because it's not like a new model year version, and Tesla doesn't really do the model year version, so they had to get around it with a new name. But my understanding is that those cars are very much the same hardware, Tesla always makes a little bit of improvements of hardware throughout the year, so there might be some changes, but mostly optimization of the efficiency of the powertrain that led to that range bump, which we're talking now 390 miles of range for the top of the range Model S and 351 for the Model X. So decent bump in top range. But again, that's just mostly software optimization. There's also some hardware update apparently coming. Jason Hughes, who's somewhat of a famous Tesla hacker, if you will, who often digs into the software updates, has been digging into the most recent Tesla BMS firmware, and he found that there's a new battery pack configuration coming with a cells group of 108 cells that would result in a 450 volt battery pack. And he, he sees a usable capacity on those packs, a starting usable capacity of 109 kilowatt hours. So again, that's your usable capacity. It's not the total capacity. So probably if Tesla was still using the kilowatt hour as a way to name the battery pack, it would probably be like 110 kilowatt hour battery pack. But anyway, on the Model S and X, that should result in over 400 miles of range on a single charge under the EPA rating, which would be a first for an electric car, and would also confirm what Elon has been saying recently, and most recently at the shareholders meeting, where he announced that it won't be long before Tesla has a 400-mile range car. So he was probably hinting at that battery pack being released relatively soon, and now we see it come up in the BMS. So yeah, I mean, we've been talking about a while about the Model S and X needing some upgrades, some refresh, and Tesla has done it last year with the Raven. That was around April. But we can argue just how significant of an upgrade that was. I mean, it didn't have that big of an impact on sales for sure. So maybe the market has spoken already, and they didn't think it was like that big of it. It wasn't enough to upgrade, because we know that there's a lot of Tesla owners out there that, like, especially the top of the line one, that buy the performance version and everything. If Tesla comes out with a new higher performance one, they're gonna buy it and just sell their previous version. I think a lot fewer people did that last time, but we're still expecting in 2020 a new interior that we reported that was supposed to come out last year. And we think it's going to coincide with the plaid mode performance, the tri-motor powertrain. And now you think that this new battery pack is going to be part of it?
Yeah, I think so. It sounds like all those things are coming together. And theoretically, Battery Day might be a good time to announce something like that, which is in a few months. So it would be really nice to see the Model S and X get exciting again. It's been kind of the Model 3 show for a long time. Obviously, the plaid version, which I've heard has been tested by a magazine. They just haven't released the specs on it yet, but we should hear about that soon. So I don't know. It would be nice to see the Model S and X see some love. It's been kind of a while.
Yeah, because the Model 3 definitely affected the Model S sales, and now that the Model Y is coming to market, going to affect the Model X sales, which also haven't been doing exceptionally well over the last few years. So yeah, with both those cars, both the Model 3 and the Model Y on the market, uh, Tesla is kind of cannibalizing itself really, which is better than other people kind of eating your own cells, but still there. And it's not like there's no like the Taken came out like that seemed to have motivated Tesla a little bit to update the Model S too. So not that I don't think it wasn't in the plan or anything like that. I still think it wasn't in the plan, but it looks like it's at least creating some competition. But yeah, I think interior refresh combined with tri-motor powertrain combined with the new battery pack, that's the trifecta really. It it fixed one of the biggest problem that people have with the Model S and X, which they are extreme premium vehicles, like $75,000 and more, but they don't feel as luxurious as other vehicle in the interior. So that would be an opportunity for Tesla to fix that. Then one of people always talk about range. We can get into that we don't think that necessarily long term it's the solution to have 400 miles cars. It might not be the best solution, but right now they have a place on the market for sure, especially when it comes to affecting people's perception of electric cars that they have shorter range. So if there's at least one car that exists with a 400-mile range, it has a nice impact on the broader market, I feel like.
Yeah.
So if Tesla has another range boost, that will likely affect sales a lot more, I think, if they break that 400-mile barriers than this update here with 390 miles of range, which is, I mean, getting very close, but it's the way human brain works. Like they like these milestones. And then, of course, I think the one that's going to have the biggest impact is the tri-motor powertrain, likely making the Model S performance like the highest performance production car again, like bring back to. I mean, you can argue that it still is, but there's so much different opinions on it. But with 110 kilowatt hour battery pack, plus a third motor, and apparently some. I mean, if we are to believe what Tesla was testing in Nürburgring last year, it has to be some like racetrack kind of package that comes with it, or something like that would really like push the performance even higher. And even though it's going to be like probably $150,000 car, 120 at the least. We just discussed, a lot of people, the ultra Tesla fan, they buy those like all the time and just sell back their P100D and buy that one instead.
Yeah, and as you said, the Taycan's a big factor. Tesla doesn't want to. I mean, right now it's pretty close. Like the Taycan wins some things, Tesla wins some things. I think they want to just kind of blow the Taycan out of the water. I don't know if they will, but I think that specs wise, they want to be one leg up, and also the 400-mile thing. I think some people may the outliers may find that the last excuse not to get an electric car. Some people tow trailers or campers or whatever. Maybe they need to go 200 miles. So those kind of folks will take advantage of a 400-mile battery. And as far as price, like the Taycan's 200,000. So, or the Turbo S Taycan is 200,000. There's a market for that. There's a market for a $200,000 Tesla Plaid version.
Yeah, I'm sure a Plaid version fully equipped will go over 150.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. Tesla changed the whole ludicrous mode thing, and now it's not as expensive. But now you're still gonna have ludicrous mode, but then you can crank it up to the Plaid mode, and that's gonna likely also crank up the price.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, you're right. The towing capacity, especially for the Model X, Model X is not as the cells won't get as much of a boost from a performance version, like a Plaid motor, but a Plaid powertrain. But the 110 kilowatt hour battery pack, if it goes to the Model S, it will likely go to the Model X2, just because they share a battery architecture. So that would probably bring the Model X range close to 400 mile too. Model S range would like to go beyond 400 miles, and the Model X range will hover around that. It would be nice if they'd be able to officially advertise it with an EPA rating of 400 miles. And yeah, you put a tow package on that, and you open yourself to a lot of possibilities at this point, like a nice camper, and that would be like a great like a retirement car where you just basically travel around, and especially if they offer still the free supercharging on it, um, that would be like a great opportunity to retired people just travel around all the time for free with a little camper or something.
Yeah. Do you think it? I mean, it's a bigger pack, so it's definitely going to charge a little quicker. Do you think it'll charge as fast as the Model 3 on a kilowatt basis?
That's something that Tesla needs to catch up on too. Since the unveil Model, like that's I think one of the biggest reasons why the Model 3 cells affected so much the Model S cell last year is when they announced the V3 supercharger with the higher charge rate. People now clearly saw Model 3 as the latest technology for Tesla. So the Model S took a back step with that. It would make sense. I'm not exactly sure what's the bottleneck for Model S and X at this point. Because, for example, the last earning calls, Elon was asked when are they gonna upgrade the Model S and X to the 2170 cells, and he said, no, we don't plan to do that. We're still going to keep the 18650, but the 18650 cells chemistry have been updated to the latest chemistry. So you'd think that it'd be able to get the higher charge rate, but not yet. So yeah, if they can announce that with an interior, with a new battery pack, with a flat powertrain, that would be that would bring back. I don't know if they can ever like go to like a 50,000 Model S, 50,000 Model X a year, but they could probably get close with that update, I think.
Yep.
All right, next, while we're still on the subject of battery and battery chemistry, this report came out, and it's not confirmed. Neither Tesla or CATL commented on it, but it's coming from Reuters, which generally has decent sources, especially in China. Talk about Tesla using CATL lithium iron phosphate batteries instead of the NCA batteries that Tesla has been using. So that's surprising, but it's surprising it's not. There's been the rumors for a while now that Tesla will change the chemistry with the Gigafactory 3 cells they're going to be using for the Chinese made in China Model 3 vehicles. They've been talking about switching from NCA to NMC, and now they're talking about even what's the abbreviation? LFP, appreciation for phosphate cell, LFP cells. For those who are not aware, LFP cells are not much used in the EV world. They are more used in China. I think, especially with their electric buses, like they have a ton of electric buses in China, and they use more of those cells. They're cheaper. They're less energy dense. Also, less prone to fires. I think. Not that that's the big issue with EVs. No, we can get into that with the Taycan later on, but. The brakes advantage they're cheaper, but again less energy dense. So, however, the report also mentions that CATL has been working on the energy density of their LFP cells, so they might have improved that, and they might have improved them enough that Tesla now is okay with using them in their cars. Because I don't think Tesla wants to of course they want to manage the cost of their car made in China, but I don't think they want to get lower performance out of them. Like I think even though they're making the lower end version of the Model 3 in China and not the performance or long range. Though they are making long range. Yeah, it's coming. Just not the all-wheel drive version of it. So yeah, I'm a bit skeptical on the report. I would still classify it as a rumor for now, but it's an interesting rumor for sure. Would be a big change for Tesla.
Yeah, and cobalt-free is also a nice thing.
That too. Yeah.
You know, Elon's talked about removing cobalt from the batteries. Cobalt, for those who aren't aware, gets a bad rap, probably deservedly, because a lot of it comes from the Congo and other parts of Africa where child labor is a big problem. So, and you know, I think there's some other problems with the recyclability and other issues with it. So getting it out of the battery cell would be a benefit, obviously.
Mm-hmm. It's also nice to see Tesla like touching every kind of the main chemistries that are used in EVs. Like they do NCA, they do NMC already, although NMC for their stationary energy storage products, and now if they will also be looking at LFP, like uh, it shows a range, like they are open like to every kind of solution, sort of a lot of people have been talking about a battery cell agnostic approach, so that you can turn around quickly and use different supplies of cells, which could enable a faster ramp up of production of EVs. So I'd like to see that, but again, rumor for now. Let's keep that in mind. All right. Speaking of rumors, in Gigafactory 1, or now I guess they call it Gigafactory in Nevada, we haven't seen the factory grow much or at all really in the last few years. It's apparently only 30% complete, but it's supposed to be this giant, biggest building on Earth. It's already big. I'm not saying it's not big, but we expected Tesla to gradually keep building it. But the last 2 years, they haven't added any section to it. Hasn't been clear why, though they did say that they want to optimize the current section first, but a lot of people feel like they had time to do that and they aren't there yet. But this week, Electrek learned that they added one of the giant warehouse buildings next to the factory. There was one that was already there, used by Thrive Market, but another one was built right next to it by a commercial leasing company, a commercial industrial leasing company, and Tesla is operating out of it now. We couldn't confirm what they're doing there exactly, but it's a giant building, like almost 500,000 feet, I think, square feet. And the source that pointed out to us that the building is being used by Tesla told us that it would be for Tesla Semi production. Not sure if they're going to assemble a Semi there. They're going to make some parts there, but it's going to be used for Tesla Semi production, which will hint to Tesla Semi being produced at the Gigafactory Nevada complex now that they also have a bunch of other buildings around the factory. They also use another building, like the other side of the industrial center. Well, yeah, and that source was also right on another scoop that we posted this week. So there's some credibility to it, but we couldn't confirm the specific of the Tesla Semi being the location being used for the Tesla Semi as with a second source. So that's why I'm calling it the rumor for now. But still an interesting tidbit.
Yeah. So why do you think they built a second factory rather than kind of finishing up the Gigafactory?
Could it be simply that they don't want to disturb what's already being made at the factory, and like adding a large production line there or something, or whatever they want to do with the building would disrupt what they're already doing there, which is already highly critical. Talking about battery cell production, drivetrain production, battery pack production, all those things Tesla needs already. So maybe they thought it would be easier to do that. I don't know. But I mean, the Tesla Semi production is on our mind a lot because it's supposed to start this year. I'll buy it in what they call low volume. They haven't exactly specified what that low volume is. But yeah, it would be very interesting to see where this thing go. Like, if you're starting production in any day now, it would be nice to confirm a location site for that production. But Gigafactory has been rumored to be that production for a while now, so this just this plays into that a lot too. You're gonna like that one, Seth. Tesla firmware into the integration of the Powerwall and vehicle charging. So for longtime fans of Tesla, they might remember that way back like 4 years ago when Tesla announced the solar roof and the Powerwall 2.0. Before announcing it, actually, Elon said that the Tesla would release something that integrates the Powerwall and the Tesla charger, the Tesla charging station, also known as the wall connector. So we were expecting Tesla to announce either an updated wall connector or Powerwall combined with a wall connector, maybe something that allows DC charging. Since you already have batteries in there, you could discharge the DC batteries to to your Tesla battery pack inside your car for a little bit faster charging, less conversion loss, more efficient. We didn't see that, and he didn't say anything about it at the event, and nothing was said for years after. But a Redditor going by C. Weinman snoop around in the Tesla API firmware for the app, which of course managed the Powerwall solar generations system, gives you some moderate way to monitor your production and storage of energy, and with Tesla products. You found a bunch of reference to car charging being supported through the Powerwall system. Um, check to see if like you can do off-grid charging reserve for your car, and solar offset of charging would mean like you could probably like charge your car instead of the for example, if you have solar generation, a power wall, a car charging, normally the solar will go to your home's demand, in electricity demand, or it will go, if you don't have enough demand right now and you have a surplus basically of solar energy, it will go to the power wall, and if that's also full, it will then go to the grid. And assuming that you have net metering, you get paid for that. But now you would have another option, which would be to charge your car if you can take more energy into your car. That would be first. So it's basically going with the most valuable option for your solar generation at all times. So first starting with demand, then storage, then transportation. Basically, use your own energy again for transportation, or then sell it back to the grid. So that's interesting on its own, but it's not a full integration that we were expecting 4 years ago, really.
Yeah. So we've actually been like kind of harping on the fact that, Tesla sells solar panels, you get DC power out of the panels, if they use optimizers at 400 volts, then to get into your home system, it has to be converted to AC, and then, into your car charger, converted to DC in your car, and then, AC later on if you have a AC induction motor. But every time it goes from DC to AC, you're losing a percentage up to 10% of the power, which is really frustrating because, you don't really have to do that. So what we've been kind of hoping for is like kind of a DC backbone, a 400 volt DC backbone where your power wall, your charger, theoretically you would have a DC charger at your home, and your solar all kind of, charge and discharge via a 400 volt DC current. And then you can kind of do some fun stuff with that. Like, if you have a power wall, that's nice, but you don't even need a power wall. Your power goes out and you could get DC from your car theoretically. And, a lot of people are like, well, that's going to mess up the warranty and whatever. But like theoretically, your power is not going to go out that often. And your house doesn't use that much electricity compared to like, flooring it in a Tesla. So all the pieces are kind of there. It's a little bit curious why they haven't kind of put that together. It seems, pretty obvious from my standpoint, but, maybe there's some things that we're not thinking of. They probably have other priorities, or whatever. But, these are some hints that, some of this stuff is kind of boiling around in the research area. So, hopefully we'll get something like that.
Yeah, and also I would frame it into the context that Tesla recently released a new generation wall connector, and the wall connector is Wi-Fi connected. So I think they're gonna talk to each other. I'm referring to the Powerwall, and the Powerwall as the gateway to, is that what you call it? The gateway, basically the brain of the Powerwall that's installed separately. So I think that Tesla is now putting all the pieces together to have a way better control over the entire home grid system, basically. So I think we're going to see a lot more features coming out of that in the next few months, maybe up to a year, let's say.
Yeah, and with Wi-Fi connectivity and some APIs, you could talk to your energy company. Your energy company could give you a huge discount if you stop charging, during the day, or during certain times, or during super peaks. And then you get a bonus for that. Maybe you get a free Tesla wall charger or something like that. That's what they do with Nest and a bunch of other thermostats. So it wouldn't be that weird to see Tesla get in on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. In other news, we reported yesterday that Kevin Kurt, sorry if I messed up the last name. He was one of the top executive at Tesla. He was promoted by Elon 2 years ago as the head of people and places. So he was in charge of all HR, all of Tesla's infrastructure development, all of Tesla's construction project. He was credited as the man responsible for building Gigafactory in Nevada, and he was in charge of course, the other construction project too that Tesla did over the last few years. He's out. He's not at Tesla anymore. He left the company last week. We don't have all the details of the circumstances of that, but apparently, if you believe Elon words, his word, he said that when he promoted it, he said that what he's been doing at Tesla was badass. So, the guy was apparently appreciated by Elon, but now he's not there anymore. Which one of it's the latest, like one of the top executive to exit Tesla. It's been calmer on that front for a while. I mean, the last big one was, of course, JB, though people argue that he's still at Tesla as an advisor role, but I think his role has been greatly reduced. But last year, there was, of course, a lot of exit at the executive level. I mean, at one point, it was 3 VPs that came out in a week. But I posted in my take on that article some like different take on Tesla's high turnover rate, really. And I changed my perspective on it basically after a dinner with Ben Schaefer earlier this week, the president of Unplugged Performance. We had a very good insight about that, and basically said that, okay, let's preface this. I'm not saying that a high turnover rate is a good thing to start with. If you have great talent in the company, you want to retain it, of course. But he said to look at it more as a cycle for Tesla. Tesla's real power is they're really good at attracting engineering talent, high level engineering talent, and once they are at the company absorbs basically their talent and their knowledge and the work they do. So of course there's also the man hours are useful. So while they're there, they put man hour, and sometimes they put too much and they burn them out. But Tesla as a company, and Elon Musk himself, who's been known to absorb knowledge like anyone else, like the guy basically learned how to make rockets from books and from talking to engineers for a few years, and then he was able to make rockets. Something similar at Tesla. He's absorbing knowledge, and then Elon himself is used as a tool basically to attract talent. Schaefer described him as the best engineer in the world, and he said it's a magnetic effect, and Elon is the magnet, the world's most brilliant engineer. That in Tesla's mission, which is solving the world's biggest problem. So his point, which I think is fair, and another Tesla employees on that article made a comment, a very good comment, that is the top comment right now in the article. I suggest you go read it. That reflected a lot of what Ben said, and yeah, that basically it's all around the cycle of attracting talent, and I think that's fair. Do you have insights on that, Seth?
So I don't know if you saw this, but we got a anonymous tip from San Francisco area. It sounds like a Tesla employee. I don't know, maybe it's not, it's just a fake, but it did sound kind of real. It says, in all honesty, no one is shocked by this exit. Wonder why Tesla has been having such big people and culture problems in the past 1.5 years. So obviously not a happy employee. Because Elon thought it would be a great idea to have a effing mechanical engineer oversee people, HR, and recruiting, all because he built Giga One. Giga One was his claim to fame internally, but that's pretty much all about he ever did. He completely ruined people, organizations internally, recruiting, university programs, leadership development, training, onboarding, etc. And he did very shady stuff like give directors, VPs bonuses if they laid off a recent percentage of their workforce. C119, 319 layoffs. If there's any exact exit that matters the most here, it's definitely Kevin. The company may now have a time to prosper and sort out its operational and retention issues. So obviously not a happy fan of Kevin
Yeah.
writing in there, but it sounds like somebody who had worked in the realm where Kevin was operating. So one person not sad to see him go.
Apparently, he lost the HR responsibility a while ago, though. Like, he was made head of HR 2 years ago, but I don't know exactly the timeline where he lost it, but it was a little while before he actually left last week. So,
yeah, but I mean, again, he was there at a tough time where they had to cut people, and nobody likes to do that. So, in that respect, nobody's going to like the guy who had to cut a bunch of people.
Yeah,
but,
exactly. So it's not all his fault either.
Yeah.
I'm sure he wasn't alone in that decision making process.
Right.
All right. Well, that was announced last week, the Tesla stock offering, but it closed this week, and it officially closed at 2.3 billion, which is 300 million more than Tesla announced. That the underwriter had an option to had $300 million worth of share, and that, like they do every time Tesla raise money, they did this time again. So it's giving Tesla about $2.3 billion proceeds of net proceeds from the capital raise, which, like we discussed last week, apparently they're going to use that for just to straighten the balance sheet. So we'll see. Good news for whoever bought those stocks, because they bought it at 767, and I don't know what it was like. It closed today at what?
Just over 900.
Just over 900. So yep, they're making good money already. Good for them. Model 3 value retention. There's a new study that came out about the Model 3 value retention this week, and the second one, but this one has a little bit more weight to it because, of course, Model 3 has been around for a little longer now. I don't know if you ever checked the Model 3 aftermarket, the used market, but first of all, there's not that many cars there. It's hard to get one, and if you find one, very, very little value lost on the car, like very little, and that study confirms it with the 5.5% difference, new car versus used car after a year, only $2,500 difference. So that's twice as good as the second best, which is the Ford Rangers at 11.4%. Tesla leads the market really in value retention. Of course, to be fair, and also it is fair, it's taken into account the incentive that Tesla had last year. So it's adjusting for the incentive, which of course affects the used car price market a lot. So
yeah, and that incentive no longer exists. So
yeah,
in a way, that's a little bit of a bonus for them, but it's still a pretty good showing.
Yeah, I mean, it was prices from the last August 2019 to January 2020. So yeah, it was at a time that Tesla had a lot less incentive on the cars. But yeah, that's a good look for Tesla. It's a good look for electric cars in general too. Though they are the only electric cars in that top 10 in value retention, but bodes well for the future and the used car market. I think what's going to happen though, it's with the Model Y coming to market. I think some people are going to upgrade from Model 3 to Model Y, and that will had some inventory on the used car market for the Model 3 and should affect prices negatively. So if some people are looking for a used Model 3, that maybe wait toward the end of the year. It's going to be easier to get your hands on one.
Yeah, and if you're selling a Model 3, you might want to do that before the Model Y start rolling off the assembly line.
Good point. All right, and not so good news. A Porsche Taycan caught on fire earlier. Last weekend, but we reported on it on Monday when the news came out. Porsche confirmed it that they were made aware on Sunday night of the Taycan catching on fire. It was in a garage in Florida. We don't know exactly where. The owner wants to stay anonymous and doesn't want information to come out, so we're not sharing more information than that. But it was in South Florida. We don't know the details of how it happened yet. but uh, Porsche is investigating the situation, of course. And yeah, I mean, as usual, we like to preface these by saying that electric cars, on average, catch on fire a lot less frequently than gasoline cars, which of course carry around a tank full of flammable products. Um, However, in terms of the Taycan, it's kind of more newsworthy right now because there's not that many of them out there. There's already a fire. I mean, we don't have a lot of numbers right now, but they sold in December. That last number we have in December in the US was like 130 units. So that one caught on fire is tiny bit worrying right now, but we'll give them the benefit of the doubt until we
Yeah,
know
we should
exactly what
wait. I
happened.
mean, it could be the charger. It could
Yeah.
be, maybe the garage caught on fire and then
Mm.
pulled the Taycan in. We'll find out soon enough.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully it's not a problem that they have to like recall or something like that.
Hopefully not, for sure. That would be a big deal, but yeah, let's give them the benefit of the doubt for now. We'll
Yeah,
we'll, we'll circle back if Porsche release some information about the investigation.
yeah. And as far as the batteries are concerned, I think the Porsche uses the same or pretty similar batteries that they're LG batteries, and they're the pouch batteries. So they're not like unproven, untested batteries. They're kind of commodity batteries.
Mm-hmm.
Just a ton of them and running at really high performance. So hopefully that's something they can figure out pretty quickly. Should we go to the reader comments?
Yeah, if you guys have any questions, put them now in the comment section below, and we'll not below. I think it's on the right side when when we're live, but you get what I'm saying. And we'll get to them, but we'll start from the beginning now.
All right. Devon89 asks, any chance that Tesla will push top line Model Y to Europe this year? I don't think so.
I'll be surprised too, but not entirely surprised. It's possible some performance version toward the end of the year, maybe. Especially that now in 2020, that's when uh, regulation becomes more important in Europe, and Tesla is going to try to sell a lot of credits to
That's right.
other automakers. So the more sales they make, the easier it's going to be for them. So maybe, but
I mean,
probably
we know that Tesla wants to sell homegrown Berlin Model Ys in Europe. So
yeah, we had this theory that even though they didn't outright say it sounded almost like maybe the Model Y is only going to be launched in Europe and only going to be launched in China once they can produce them in Europe and produce them in China, which is going to be next year for both. So we'll see.
Has the battery, so RD asks, has the battery powertrain investor day timeline been clarified? Does the Buffalo site talk include a battery powertrain presentation?
We don't have new information from Tesla or Elon Musk. That's all he said. My poll was torn on it, and I did like people thought that might be different things. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be the same thing. It's gonna be at that April event they're gonna do at Gigafactory New York.
It would be weird to have event after event after
Yeah.
event and an earnings call too. So
Yeah,
makes sense. All right. When do you think the Model Y deliveries will start in the US? Let's say next month.
yeah. They said March. I think they're gonna stick to that. They said they started low volume production already in January, so they have to have at least some kind of inventory right now, even if it's in the low dozens or 100. So I'm sure they're going to start at least some deliveries in March.
Yeah, and last time they did with the Model 3, they did employee deliveries first. So
yeah, maybe they're already doing that. Who knows? But
yep. Sunday, March 1st would give Tesla a full month to deliver slowly. The 110 kilowatt pack will come on the Model S and X. I think so, right?
oh, well, yeah. It's same battery architecture, so it wouldn't make sense to launch only on one.
Yep. Any more free Volta charging stations in California? Any other free options? Solar power charging stations?
Well, that wouldn't be free. There's still a cost of deployment of those, even if the charging only comes from solar. So you still need a way to generate some revenue. So it would the Volta model is of course advertising,
right?
But wait, I don't get what you're saying anymore. I mean, I think Volta is still deploying more.
Yeah, and there are just like municipal free charging like here and there and everywhere on level 2. It's hard to find a level 3 because it's such an expensive thing to do that's free. Usually, like driving somewhere and getting a free charge is not worth your time, unless you know you don't have anything else going on or something. So I don't know. I mean, people are like, a lot of people kind of expect to get free charging a lot of places, which I think is the wrong way to look at it, because even if the electricity is very cheap, building the charging stations is not. The location and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So Volta's got kind of a nice thing, but you're going to be looking at a bunch of ads. So if that's
Yeah.
okay, you're good. All right. Only use Tesla says long range plus, just a software update, or is it a hardware or motor?
Like I said, it's a combination of both. Tesla has been gradually updating things, or upgrading things over the last year, but it was mainly a software, and not only a software, but also just new APA test really that they did. Like the car was definitely already doing higher.
When Llewellyn asks, Model Y production prep has been quiet of late. Any news on the event for the first batch of customers? That's true. The first batch of customers, you would think there'd be some sort of event. You don't think that'll be pushed out till April, do you? Like with the other stuff?
No, it would make sense to do it in March too if they do something. Maybe just something. Maybe just with employees or something like that. That would make sense.
Will all the Raven models be LR plus now, long range plus now? Maybe, I don't know.
They didn't say when the cutoff started. They said in the last few months of production. So they're being vague about that.
Our RDS says, in my opinion, Tesla will not announce a new interior or refresh before it's ready for order to avoid tanking current sales. That's pretty fair. That's the Osborne effect.
Yeah, they always do that.
Just saw an ad on YouTube from Amazon announcing the new Rivian delivery van coming in 2021. Features the Rivian CEO and Clay model of the van. Oh, we'll have to take a look at that.
No, that I've seen that. We reported on that actually. That's a new series from Amazon that they're doing, like a YouTube series.
Oh yeah, I remember that. All right. Artie, do you think they would announce a new interior, then everyone else would just want to wait for cancel orders?
Yeah, we know that.
All right. Tesla could make trailers with extra batteries. That's an interesting thing. We've talked about that a little bit.
What's your report on a company that does that? A French startup that does that this week.
Yeah.
And it's controversial. Like some people really think it's a good idea, but other people like for when you need it, but you're carrying a battery in a trailer, a smaller trailer, which is gonna have a lot of movement in it. It's not the ideal way to transport high energy density stuff. So
yeah, and it's funny. I saw batteries in a trailer. They also have like a generator in a trailer, just running behind you with a gas tank.
Oh, wait a minute. Maybe the guy means like a Tesla Semi having a trailer, like a large trailer with batteries in it. That would be something different. I don't think that's in the plan right now, but yeah, maybe we'll see.
Yeah. You've been promising Model S refresh since 2018. Yeah, we had the pictures.
No, yes and no. I've been reporting on it since 2018. When I released the first pictures, it was planned for summer 2019, and the plan has simply been pushed for. Of course, we know everything that happened last year that pushed it. So I don't see that being an issue at all.
Yeah, and it's not like you didn't have like pretty compelling imagery.
Oh yeah, it was confirmed that was the plan then. The plan changed, but it's still gonna happen, in my opinion. Might be a little bit updated from those pictures, but I think the core of it is gonna be similar.
Yeah, and the key thing is that the widescreen is gonna be the same between all the models. And kind of on that subject, cables, charge port, and even cooling may need to upgrade before 250 kilowatt on Model S and X. That's true, but we would expect that to be part of the upgrade. I think.
If that's the bottleneck, indeed.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the bottleneck or the cells, but we'll see. Since Rivian is getting their cells with LG Chem, do you see them having supply constraints with their pickup SUV and Amazon vans? That's a concern.
Yeah.
Although Rivian is with LG Chem, they've told us on multiple occasions that they're willing to take batteries from anybody. It's just LG Chem is currently their primary
And
supplier.
with the kind of like the money that they have right now with Rivian, they could also just kind of like stockpile some of them and be ready to production. Especially since with the Amazon van in play, like we don't know exactly what they're planning to do in terms of volume for the R1T and R1S. But for the van, we know that they're planning to do like 100,000 of them over 4 years or something like that. So
Yeah.
you're gonna need a lot of batteries.
Yeah, and that kind of brings us to this question: or is everyone else seeing supply constraints because Rivian is hogging all the batteries? That's amusing. Probably not, but maybe. Like,
Yeah, probably not because the production is supposed to start later this year. So
hi guys, in your opinion, why do you think we have solar on the rest of Giga Nevada and not on Giga Shanghai? I think it's just, I mean, me personally, I think it's just a bandwidth thing. Like they
yeah.
just don't have the internal excess capacity to throw that up. I'm sure they will when they get around to it. When they
I
have,
mean, the one on Giga Nevada took a while to put on too. Like,
yeah, it's only half up there too.
it's on maybe like even a third, I would say, and nothing happened for like a year and a half, maybe after they announced it. So I wouldn't worry too much. It would probably happen at some point. Giga Shanghai.
All right, now we're getting into a bunch of conversations. So let me
Yeah.
see if I can. Yeah, I don't think they're running out of solar panels. I think it's just a time to get it up. Exceptional value retention from the summer. Model 3 has increased in price and lost tax credit. Yep. All right. Anybody know exactly what Tesla manufactures in Lathrop?
That shop, I think, is die casting. I think they do. I think they do some die casting and other things, but I think it's just body parts and stuff like that. It's nothing too crazy.
Yeah, so we don't know about the continuation of building Gigafactory 1. We mentioned that briefly. Why?
Yeah.
Kind of curious why they stopped. I mean, maybe it's just a kind of a problem moving all the cars that far out. Who knows?
Mhm.
Yeah, solar was shown in the concept drawings of Giga Shanghai. All right, let's get to a question. Gok Wampanzi, for the Model 3 and Model Y, do you know if Tesla solved the embedded multimedia controller flash memory problem that caused the MCU to go blank on Model S and Model X?
I think they did at some point, and then it came back for some people or something like that. Like I thought it was already done, but then some people are starting to complain again. So we need to look into the situation again because I thought it was solved for a while.
Andy Towers says, any commentary on the possibility of integrating wireless charging? If that came with all Teslas, game over. I'm not as big a fan of wireless charging as some people, I guess, Andy. Like, it's really not that hard to just go, with
it's solving a problem that's not really a problem, really. It's
Yeah, I mean, I guess it'd be nice not to have to get out of your car, at a supercharger, but that's a lot of. I mean, you lose a lot of power too. I don't think there's any.
yeah, that's the main thing. You don't want to have an efficiency loss for sure. Now a lot of companies they're claiming there's no efficiency loss, and now they have some protocol that goes up to 250 kilowatts. So we'll see. Like if they solve all those problems, but then it's the cost too. It costs more both in the cars to have the induction receiver and then to deploy a station because you need to embed them into the ground. So now it's to see is that cost increase worth the little convenience improvement? I don't know.
And then it's a heavier car as well.
That too, yeah.
Yeah. What is the cost of the Model 3 long-range battery pack? If it's $100 per kilowatt hour these days, then
maybe a little bit over that, but
$10,000. Great. All right, people answering that.
Lathrop.
All right, this is the last question. Any word on tow package for Model Y? That we saw in Europe, right?
Yeah, we saw some prototypes having it, so it would make sense for Tesla to release at some point. But we saw the same thing for the Model 3, and it took forever for Tesla to release it for the Model 3, and then they only did it for Europe. So it's hard to follow Tesla's logic there, but it would make more sense for them to release it on the Model Y and Model 3. So hopefully they do it at launch, but so far no word.
Yeah, and it would be nice, like, if they don't want to release a full tow package, at least have something where you can put a bike carrier on there or something like that.
Well, it's probably gonna have a roof rack, like you can do a roof rack for the Model 3. So
yeah, but I don't know. I'd rather put my bikes on the back than the roof, even though I'm not sure what is better. All right, so we're out of questions. That was kind of a short episode this week.
Yeah, a little bit shorter than last week, but people that are watching on YouTube, subscribe to YouTube because we're gonna have a ton of very cool videos coming up. We have Micah here. He's in California for a week, and you wouldn't believe all the cool toys he's playing with, and he's gonna release a lot of videos over the coming weeks from that.
Yeah,
I also have a video coming next week with something that I tested out earlier this week that I cannot talk about yet. It's under embargo until next week, but it's coming out next week, so subscribe for that. Leave us a thumbs up. It's always appreciated. Comment section below. If you have any suggestion, do it. And we'll see you same place, same time next week.